Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, You Won't Stop Smoking on Your Porch at Night? Guess we'll burn our house down. Just found out why there was a bunch of flashing lights and loud sirens on the street behind mine last night, and I am gobsmacked. The family that used to live in the house behind mine, who ever so helpfully called the police on me after I gave them a heads up about their Wi-Fi, has moved out. A new family has moved in. Our houses are separated by a couple hundred feet and a brush line. I found this out because they came to talk to me last week about my smoking a joint before I go to bed on my porch and how the smell is terrible and it's bothering them and I just need to not do that. Note, I smoke precisely 1 half-gram joint on my screened-in porch before bed perhaps 3 to 4 times a week. The likelihood that any of the smoke from that is going anywhere near their house is slim to none. I told the new neighbors I'll turn a ceiling fan on to thin out the smell, but I'm not going to get eaten alive by bugs just before bed because they don't want me to smoke on my own property. Porch is screened in. I guess this answer didn't satisfy them because last night one of them came up with a cunning plan to get back at me. They dug a hole in their lawn, built a fire with a bunch of green pine wood so it'd be extra smoky, started the fire, and then put a box fan pointed at my porch next to the fire and went inside. 3 guesses. What happened? If you guessed they set their own house on fire, you would be correct. One of their next door neighbors called 911 because some cinders from the fire set my back neighbor's house on fire. I have no idea how much the fire damaged the house, only that the people who lived there got arrested and given an impressive set of fines for negligence and a bunch of other things. Did I mention my county is under a fire weather warning and all of those fines are multiplied? The juiciest part, and the reason I decided to post on here about it was, one of the cops was talking to the neighbors who were going on and on about the awful pot smell that I was causing and making the house uninhabitable. Cop sniffs a little bit and tells them that's not marijuana, that's a skunk. The next story is titled, Entitled Family Claims They Own a Public Beach and Call 112 When We Trespass on Their Property. I was at the beach, soaking up the sun and feeling the cool sea breeze blowing against my skin. It was a beautiful day and I was thoroughly enjoying the peace and tranquility of the beach. Suddenly, I heard a commotion coming from a nearby area and I turned to see who it was. To my horror, it was the entitled Karen family. They were notorious around our neighborhood for their entitled behavior and they always caused problems for their neighbors. I tried to stay away from them, but of course Karen had to come over and confront me. "What are you doing here?" she asked in a condescending tone. "This is our private property, and you're trespassing." I tried to explain to her that the beach was public property and that I had every right to be there, but she was not having it. Our argument became heated and I stood my ground, determined not to let her push me around. Just as I was starting to relax and think the situation was over, she came back with a beer in hand. She took a sip, then poured the rest of the beer all over me. I was shocked and furious, and I grabbed the bottle from her hand, threatening her, but she just laughed it off and went back to her family. I could see they were planning something, and sure enough, Karen came back with a baseball bat, threatening to hit me if I didn't leave their private property. I stood my ground, telling her that this is a public beach and it belongs to all of us. I even dared her to hit me, but instead she called the police. I welcomed the police to come, but little did Karen know I had a trick up my sleeve. You see, I had been documenting all of their entitled behavior and nuisance for years. I had all the evidence I needed to show the police that Karen was the one who needed to be removed from the beach. When the police arrived, I calmly explained the situation, presenting all the evidence I had collected. The police were shocked, and after hearing my side of the story, they took Karen and her family into custody. It was a sweet victory, and I finally had the peace and quiet I deserved. The entitled Karen family was finally gone, and I could enjoy the beach without any more drama. The next time I came to the beach, I made sure to document all the other people who were enjoying the public property, just to show Karen and her family that the beach isn't their private property. In the end, I moved away from the neighborhood, but I'll never forget the lesson I learned that day. That the beach, just like any other public property, belongs to all of us, and no one person or family can claim it as their own. But that wasn't the end of the story. Years went by, and I couldn't shake the feeling of injustice. Karen and her family had gotten away with their entitled behavior for too long, and I was determined to make sure they paid for their actions. I started to research and gather information on Karen and her family, and I discovered that they owned several businesses in the area. I also found out that they had several outstanding lawsuits against them for various reasons. I decided to take action and I reached out to the plaintiffs in each of their lawsuits. I shared my story with them and offered them my evidence, which they gladly accepted. With my help, the lawsuits gained momentum, and the entitled Karen family was finally held accountable for their actions. In the end, their businesses went bankrupt and they were forced to sell their home. They became the laughingstock of the community and their reputation was ruined. I finally got my revenge and I felt a sense of satisfaction knowing they would never be able to hurt anyone else again. And that, my friends, is the story of how I stood up to the entitled Karen family and brought them to justice. The next story is titled, Entitled Mom Gets Me Beat Up. We cannot place Mom in a nursing home unless she agrees to go because she is considered to be mentally with it. The only way we could place her is if she wasn't in her right mind, but according to apps, she is. A little explanation, my husband and I had, in the past, placed Mom in a nursing home, one that had programs to help her regain a little mobility. Mom was kicked out of there because she called the police on the nurses for not answering her call light quickly enough. I live in one of only 4 Commonwealth states and only one of 2 that are in the Deep South. Adult Protection Services got involved over the nursing home incident and a worker comes weekly to see Mom most of the time. The worker has told my husband and I that we cannot make Mom leave not having anywhere to go, that they could charge us with elderly neglect if we did. I said I was going to take her to the shelter an hour away, and the worker said if I did, I would be in trouble. I've asked the worker to help find a place for Mom, such as assisted living or an apartment. Worker says due to COVID, that would be very hard. We can't evict her, as the district courts aren't allowing evictions to be filed. Here, a clerk has to approve anything that's filed and can deny it. Mom put me down in her medical records as her caretaker, and although I never signed anything consenting to this, a letter from her physician naming me is apparently good enough for this worker and others. I've asked Mom's doctor to please revise the letter and remove me. He says he can't talk to me. My siblings, who were fathered by Mom's first husband, will not keep Mom because she has nothing aside from her measly social security check every month. They are greedy. My middle brother kept Mom 2 nights, then brought her back saying it was too hard. They want me to pay them a ridiculous amount of money to keep her. Mom lied to them for years saying that she would have access to the inheritance I received from my father, but she lied and my siblings stopped having much to do with her. The police are 50-50. It depends on the officers that come. Some are reasonable and others are hateful. I had an officer tell me that my mom had taken care of me, so why couldn't I take care of her? My husband had this home before we married, and due to our state's marriage laws, as well as him adding me to the deed, the home is 50% mine. Someone in the comments mentioned Section 8. I don't know what that is, but the home is ours. My husband told the apps worker that he was going to throw Mom out, and the worker told my husband if he did that, she, the worker, could file some type of restraining order, essentially banning my husband from being in his own home. We're basically stuck with her for now, and it's horrible. My mother-in-law has moved in with us due to her having cancer, and mother-in-law is the opposite of Mom. My mom is brutal to her, steals from her. Yes, we've called the police, and they never do anything because they consider it of a domestic nature as we all live together. Here, lately, we've stopped buying things Mom needs, like hygiene supplies and other items. Mom has been forced to use her Social Security money to provide herself with her basic needs. I do buy things for my mother-in-law as she is truly having a difficult time and Mom hates it. I've started ignoring Mom at night, making her get up and fix her own fan or get her own TV remote. We've told her if she runs the new home health aid off, then there will not be another one brought in. Mom doesn't like this aid due to the fact I hand-picked the aid from the agency, and this girl is not easy to manipulate and doesn't do drugs like the last aide who helped Mom steal mother-in-law's medication box. We've also stopped running her to appointments, instead making her utilize the transportation available through her Medicare, which she also hates. She has always used my middle brother as her golden child, and we dealt with that recently as Mom tried to intimidate people with the threat of calling my brother. We told her to call him, and if he shows up to try and scream at someone, we will have the police remove him because we can do that. I'm sorry this post and such has been so lengthy. Warning, mention of drugs. As I stated in my last post, my EM lives with my husband and I. When she first moved in, she could still drive, and this incident essentially led to us eventually taking her car as it was in my name. My mom has an opioid problem and had as long as I can remember. I went without a lot as a child due to her spending all her money on pain pills. I had a different father than my 4 siblings, and if it hadn't been for the money that went to a lawyer for me every month, I would have been screwed. My dad knew he couldn't trust my mom, so the money to take care of me went to his attorney, who would pay for what I needed. It got so bad that my mom would try to return the items bought, so the lawyer would keep the receipt and tell the store not to return it. Anyway, my husband and I had been married about 4 months when this happened. He went to work that morning as usual, and I started my day. Mom left around 10. Didn't tell me where she was going. She came back around noon and had a girl I'd never seen in the car before. The girl looked rough. She and my mom got out and came into the house. I came downstairs as I'd seen them pull in from my bedroom window. Me. Who is this, Mom? EM. Just a friend of mine. I knew better. I went about cleaning and such. The girl kept standing in the door leading to side porch. I asked if they were waiting on someone and my mom said no. The girl kept texting and calling. I definitely knew something was up when Mom asked me to go to the store. I told her no, I was going later and didn't want to go right then. I wasn't about to leave this girl in my home alone. Mom asked me to go upstairs so she could visit with her friend. I told her no and to remember this was my home. The girl gave Mom a funny look. I went in the kitchen and was putting dishes away when I heard a man's voice. I went back in the dining room to see the girl and my mom talking to a middle-aged man who'd came in. EM. OP, you need to go in the other room for a few minutes. I'm visiting. Me. No, Mom, this is my and hubby's home. I'm trying to clean. You can visit just fine with me here. The man then asked who I was, and I told him I'm EM's daughter. He said he wasn't told I would be here. I just shrugged and repeated it was my house. I went in the living room and pretended to straighten up the sofa. What I heard confirmed that this was a drug deal in my home. I didn't know what to do. My phone was upstairs, and I didn't want to leave those two unsupervised in my house. Mom called me into the dining room and had the audacity to ask me for money. I told her no. She said her friends needed to borrow it. I again said no. The man. Well, if you don't have all the money, then you don't get all the crap, and this is sketchy because you didn't tell me this girl would be here. Me. You need to leave. You both do, or I'm going to call the police. I know what you're doing and don't want this in my house. The girl and the man started yelling at my mom about how she'd set them up. Mom demanded I give her the money, and I said no once more. EM. Fine. I'll just go get it out of your purse myself. You do what I say. Mom was trying to show these two people she could control me, but she couldn't. Me. Touch my purse and I'll call the cops on you too. The man. Hey, yo, that's fine. I'm leaving and you two don't call me again. He left and I never saw him again. Oh, Mom and that girl were so angry with me. TG. You didn't tell me your daughter was a snitch. She's never been here before. Why is she here today? I saw red. I got so angry. So Mom had this girl in my home before without me knowing. Me. Wow. So you've had this POS in my home without my permission or me knowing? I'd had a small piece of jewelry turn up missing, and now it made sense. I told the girl to leave and that she wasn't allowed back. Mom started saying yes, she could come back and that I had ruined everything. I told Mom I didn't appreciate her buying drugs in my home and that I would be calling the cops on them all. This made the girl angry. She started screaming and coming towards me, telling me I wasn't calling anyone. She backed me into the kitchen doorway and started swinging. We went into the kitchen floor fighting. I managed to get her off me and kicked her in the shoulder. Get out now or I'm going to run to the neighbors and ask for help. The girl got up and started spitting on me, calling me a snitch and saying I was the law. She went into the dining room and told my mom never to contact her again. My mom begged her not to go. I never saw that girl again, and we did call the police. They didn't know her name, and neither did I, so she wasn't charged for hurting me. Mom wouldn't say anything at all about the situation. We did install cameras in the rooms to make sure she didn't have anyone back in our home. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.